Please be seated. The court is now back in session. Once again, the floor is given to the prosecution to continue putting questions to this witness. You may proceed.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. President. For your information, I will continue my questions up to the coffee break this afternoon. I hope to be able to finish by then, though I may need an extra 10 minutes. On the civil party side, they will, I believe, need 30 to 40 minutes. Mr. Witness, I'd like to ask you a few questions about the 17th of April 1975 and the occurrences on that day. To the investigating judges, you said that you came into Phnom Penh about 3 days after Phnom Penh had fallen. Is that correct?
Thank you. 3 days after Phnom Penh fell, I did arrive.
At which point did you go back to your battalion in Phnom Penh?
We were gathered near vicinity in kilometer number 6, that is Trang Cham Rai area, in order to congratulate the victory.
At that point in time, were you with Sun Ri? I think that is an acquaintance that you had at the time. Were you with him?
My apology, I do not get a question fully. Please rephrase your question.
When the victory of the fall of Phnom Penh was being celebrated around kilometer 6, in the ranks of your battalion, was there also somebody called Sun Ri? S-U-O-N, second word R-I or perhaps R-Y.
Is it Sun Rai or Sun Ri? I'm not really clear on the name.
Well, Mr. Witness, I'm doing my best to pronounce this, but I think it's probably Sun Rai. Second name R-E-Y, alias Katkan.
Thank you for your clarification. Yes, that is correct. We were together.
So, from your standpoint on kilometer 6, did you see the population coming out of Phnom Penh and going past where you were at kilometer 6?
After the liberation in 1975, People who were living in Phnom Penh were being evacuated through various national roads, number 5 and number 6, for example.
Est-ce que vous les avez vus?
But did you see the evacuees walking past on the roadway where you were standing in kilometre 6?
Yes, I saw people. I saw people walking on the road.
Est-ce que
Did some of the soldiers from your battalion ask questions to the people going by on the road so as to try and sift out the Lon Nol soldiers from the ordinary citizens?
No, I did not know about that. I only saw people leaving the city, but I did not see what to just rest.
Let's just make one attempt at this and read a part of what Sonoray said to DC Cam in the 2nd of February 2003 in IS 19.192. IS 19192. And the extract that I want to read in Khmer is on 000559292. 0055292-293 in English. It's on pages 18 and 19, and in French 14 to 15 of the document. The witness won't have seen the document, so I won't put it on the screen, but I'd just like to hear his reaction to what Sonoray said. And what emerges from the document is the following question. Were the Lon Nol soldiers in camouflage? Answer, yes, they were camouflaged in the sense that they were not wearing their military uniforms, they were dressed as civilians. And then later on they could merge in with the inhabitants. Question, could they be identified? Answer, no, they could not. But among them, when some of them were interrogated, they did turn out to be soldiers. Did you suspect some of these people? Questions, yes, we did, and we interrogated the commandos. Question, when they were met, these commandos or the former soldiers, what did the Khmer soldiers do? Answer by Sonoray, they arrested them and withdrew them from the others. When they were Lon Nol soldiers, they withdrew them systematically. They didn't deport them with the other inhabitants. Then, jumping a passage, they gathered them together and put them in the same place and held them there while they waited. I saw that with my own eyes. That's the end of that particular passage. So, Mr. Witness, you went back to your battalion after the others. Can you confirm yourself that you did not see that kind of sorting between ordinary members of the population and Lon Nol soldiers being performed by some members of your battalion?
I only saw people being evacuated out of the city, but I did not know anything from the extract of Sun Rai's statement that you just read. Because after the liberation, we actually were the last one to arrive.
Merci. Je vais passer à...
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to a new phase when you were working in a commercial job. I'm referring to your biography, 19.1177. On page 2, there is that table that has dates, and here it says 15th of May, 1975, worker in Kompong Som, commerce. The French version says the 15th of March 1975, but that is an error. It should be the 15th of May, as it says in Khmer, and the word Kompong Som in French doesn't appear either. Mr. Witness, you've already told us that you were working in Kompong Som, and what this says in the biography that you left on the 15th of May 1975, please tell us if that is accurate.
My response in that document was incomplete, and allow me to add further to that. I went to Kampong Sam for 1 year, from 75 to 76, and after that I was transferred.
Très bien. À partir du moment où vous étiez...
And then, after you were transferred to Kompong Som, were you there as a soldier or as a civilian working in the commerce service?
I worked in Kampong Sam as a laborer. I carried goods. At that time, I was at Klang Le, and then I was sent by truck to the seaport. Actually, it's kind of a rotation. For example, I started at 7 a.m. and at 11 I was rotated to another location, and further down in the late afternoon I would be rotated to another location.
Merci.
On the second page in Khmer of document E3/363, page 2 in French as well, and page 3 in the English, you told the investigating judges at the beginning our job was to unload paddy from Chinese boats. I should point out that these boats had 90 automobiles on the upper level, and inside them there was paddy and other kinds of equipment such as pickaxes and spades and insecticides. Now, if I understand what you told the investigating judges, shortly after the evacuation of Phnom Penh and other cities, rice paddy was regularly unloaded from Chinese boats. Now, is that correct?
It's not unhusked rice, it was husked rice. And yes, there were also all kinds of equipment, holes and axes, as you stated. And yes, and on the top of floor there were vehicles, 90 vehicles in fact, because that ship was huge. The length of the ship was about 130 meters. And then they would unload the rice, and then we would carry the rice into the warehouse.
Très bien.
When you were with your former battalion, were there any arrests in the area when you were working in the Kampong Som port?
When I worked at the Kampong Som port, at that time I did not know yet about any arrest, as we were working normally, and we were carrying goods and equipment, and we rotated ourselves, as I stated earlier.
Est-ce que Tabeng
Was Tabeng still your boss then, or did you have a new boss between 75 and 76 when you were down in Kampong Som?
Yes, there was a replacement for Tabeng. When I was sent to Kampong Som, he was promoted to go elsewhere, and I did not know about where he went.
Merci. Alors j'en viens à votre...
Let's come back to the period of time you spent in Phnom Penh. According to your biography, you came back on the 28th of May 1976. Is it correct to say that you worked in several different places in Phnom Penh first? You've already told us about Kilometer 6 and Cheng Chamres and Tortumpong, but did you also work in Tak Mau at one point?
The thing is that after I returned from Kampong Som to Phnom Penh, I was initially working in the Chang Cham area, that is near kilometer number 6. I carried rice and cement, unloading them from the train onto trucks. And later on, I was transferred to work in Tak Mau for a while, and later on I was transferred to work near Tul Tumpung area, near the Tul Tumpung Pagoda itself.
In your biography, it says that after Tak Mau you came back to Kilometer 6. 17th of March 1977, Kilometer 6, and after that a worker at K51. Did you work at Kilometer 6 and at Chang Chamres both before and after Tak Mau?
I worked at Chang Chamres first, then I was transferred to work in Tak Mau.
D'accord, merci.
Thank you. You talked about the fact that you had to transport rice and cement to Chang Chamres. Now, who was it destined for, this rice that you loaded onto trains? Was it to be consumed in Cambodia or was it due for export?
I did not know where cement was taken from, but in fact I unloaded the cement from the train into the warehouse. As for the rice was taken from the big rice mill, and then I carried and loaded them onto a truck, and I believed it meant for export. Because the rice was screened properly, and it was only in the good quality one that I loaded them onto the trucks.
Et lorsque vous étiez à Sri
And when you were at Treng Chamres, were you a coolie laborer as before, or were you in a higher position leading other people? What were your duties then?
I was still a laborer carrying goods and rice.
Je voudrais vous lire.
Let me read another extract from the record of the interview. It's document E3/363 on pages 3 and 4 in Khmer, page 4 in French and pages 3 and 4 in the English. It refers to arrests. The first is, when you stayed at Treng Chamre, were there any arrests? And your answer was yes. They told the leaders, chief and deputy chief of the battalion and chief and deputy chief of the company, to go to study. After that, they also called the platoon chief to go to study, and among those people, no one ever returned. All disappeared forever. Later, when there was only the group chief and ordinary workers left, they called them to a meeting at a place near Wat Phnom, and then, moving on in the text, after the new unit and new group chiefs had been organized, my group went to stay in the area of Psa Chas, but we still went to work at kilometer 6, end of quote. So those arrests of local leaders at Treng Chamres, some of your superiors, did those take place before the meeting at which the betrayal by Tuk was announced at Wat Phnom?
That is correct. Regarding the heads of the platoons and companies, they were invited to study sessions, but they were gone forever, and only the laborers remained. Then we were put into tracks for a meeting in Wat Phnom, and then the new structures was reorganized for these remaining laborers or workers.
Merci. Est-ce qu'on vous a dit pourquoi?
Thank you. Were you told why the battalion chiefs and deputy chiefs and the company chiefs and deputy chiefs had disappeared or had been arrested?
In the meeting for the preparation of the new groups, in order to supervise the workers, we were told that Koitun alias Tuch was a traitor at the Ministry of Commerce, but they did not make the announcement of the arrest of the lower levels under him, but they were part of the traitors network, and for that reason they had been arrested.
Est-ce que
Did the meeting that you're referring to only concern people who were working for the Ministry of Commerce? And who chaired the meeting and who told you at that point about Koitun?
At that time, there was a person by the name of Red. He was transferred from the southwest, and he was in charge of the domestic commerce. He organized the meetings for the restructuring of the groups for the workers, and the meeting was held near Phnom of Sacha. But in fact, we worked near kilometer number 6.
est-ce qu'à cette
At the meeting where they announced that Koitun was a traitor, did they mention other people as well who had positions in the North Zone or in your original division?
No, they did not say anything about it. Apparently, they discussed a man by the name of Eun. He was also one of the commander in North Zone, and he was actually a military figure. And as for other, I did not know. Normally they address those commander as brother number 1, number 2, but I did not know who they refer to as brother 1 and 2.
pour que ce soit bien clair dans
In order for us to be very clear regarding your statement to the OIC investigators, let me quote what you said. In Khmer, it is 00236033. That is in record E3 / is so 00236033. In French, it is page 4, and in English, it's page 4. You're talking about Tarit, and you said during the meeting, it was said that Koitun alias Tuk alias Un, Secretary of the North Zone and Minister of Overseas Commerce, was a CIA agent, that he had plotted to launch a coup d'etat to overthrow brother number 1 and brother number 2. A senior military commander named Eun was the person heading the army. They were all successively arrested. They are talking of brother number 1 and brother number 2. Do you confirm what you said, that Reith had said that Koitun had prepared or hatched a plot against brother number 1 and brother number 2?
Yes, that is correct. What you have read out is correct.
Merci. Je voulais savoir
Thank you. Tell me something. When Rith talked about the betrayal of Koi Toon, did he say that Koi Toon had made any confessions regarding the plot, the coup d'etat?
Thank you. But on this point, I cannot comment on it because I cannot recollect the detail. I could only respond to any specific point.
Très bien.
Very well, no problem. At the time, when Tariq said that Koi Toon alias Tuch was related to the CIA, did you know what that meant? Saying that someone was related to the CIA, do you know what that meant at the time?
The President, witness, please hold on. Counsel Victor Kope, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I object to the question. I think we are moving out of the scope of this trial, especially with this last question. I object.
Mr. President, I think this objection is not well founded. We are talking of the Ministry of Commerce, and we know how the Minister of Commerce was related to the accused. Secondly, we are talking about the enemies. And thirdly, we should bear in mind that Rousseau, who was a defense witness, spoke about this at length. For all these reasons, I therefore think this objection is not well founded, and it should therefore be dismissed.
The President, the objection and ground for objection by the defense team for Mr. Nguyen Chia is not appropriate. So witness is directed to respond to the question put by the prosecutor. If you still remember the question, you should proceed, witness. For this question, I actually did not know it very well, but there was a mention by that Koi Toon was part of the CIA network under the American forces, but I did not understand it very well because I was an ordinary soldier.
Merci.
Thank you. What subsequently happened in the unit in which you worked following the announcement that Koi Toon was a traitor? Did a climate of fear set in, that is, in the unit in which you worked?
I am trying to make it as clear as possible. There was a climate of fear, indeed, at that era, because back then we could not escape or flee, so we had to stay on. I at that time thought if we wanted to escape from our place, I could not think of going anywhere. If I ever crossed the border, I would run the risk of ended up being killed. And if I move out of my place to another location, I would be identified as a newcomer, then I would run the risk of being captured and killed.
Merci, Monsieur le témoin.
Thank you, witness. Let us now talk about the last period when you worked at the Ministry of Commerce. I believe that was up to the end of the regime, and that is at Tultumpong. Can you tell us the position you held when you arrived at Tultumpong? Were you promoted during that period you spent at Tultumpong?
To be honest, when I got there, I was promoted to the team leader, but I was under the supervision of my superior. And when I was in Tultumpong, my main task was to conduct the purifying and the kapok. We receive this the kapok from different parts of the country, and my job was to classify it, and I have to monitor the machine that produce this cotton, and my main task was mainly monitoring the machine producing cotton, and I will only allow on 3 days leave every month. I can ask for leave for 1 day every 10 days, and Mr. Rudd was in charge of trade, domestic trade and foreign trade, and he normally convened meetings among us to propagandize among us that we had to be careful. If we ever broke even one spoon, we would be associated as the enemy. That was one issue. And on a separate issue, there was a person from another location. There was one comrade, Comrade Tha, who was 18 years old, and Comrade Chia, who was the messenger of Ta Chia after Jam was removed in Kampong Saum. Chia was originally from Stung district, and then he was a messenger and also a driver. And Nyam was removed, he was arrested, then he was promoted, and Comrade Tha was promoted after Ta Hong, the deputy of Rudd, was removed, and then Ta Hong disappeared, and then Comrade Tha was promoted. And then one day, when we were working in Tultumpong, Comrade Tha called Comrade Chia to inspect the lock in the pagoda, whether or not that lock could be used. It was almost 10 o'clock. Then I look at the entrance to the pagoda. I did not know actually the exact location now, but back then it was along the way. I tried to look at outside the pagoda fence. I saw small trucks. They were in red color. When Comrade Chia got to the entrance of the pagoda, he was pointed a gun at, and then he was taken away in the truck, and he disappeared. And then in the evening, we discussed among ourselves. We did not know our fate. One day we would be arrested or so. That was the situation at that time. So we could not do anything at that time. On the 17th of April, when we separated after Phnom Penh, we totally went into different directions. Some of us went to Oral, and then after that, Vietnam arrived. Some of us even ran to the Cambodian-Thai border, and some of us was saved by the Vietnamese soldiers who came in. The President interrupts. You should move on, Mr. Prosecutor.
Merci pour toutes ces précisions.
Thank you for all these clarifications, witness. We will try to revisit some of what you have said, but let us limit the testimony to Tutumpung. I would like you to clarify what you said in two statements to the OCIJ investigators regarding the meetings that were held every 10 days with Van Rith. The first extract is from the record before you, E3/6.3 on page 5 in all the versions in the different languages. This is what you said, and I quote: "In that entity, an internal meeting was held every 10 days, and the person called Rith also took part in that meeting. He said in the meeting, and I quote, 'The enemy is not yet completely gone. They are still hiding and burrowing inside the party. We have to track and monitor them. They would destroy even a spoon and not just anything significant.'" End of quote. Let me read another extract from another record of an interview, and the number is E3/472. And that was a few months after the previous one, and it is on page 3 in each of the languages. With your leave, Mr. President, may I have this document shown to the witness and also placed on the screen? That is page 3 in English, Khmer, and French.
The President, you may proceed.
Alors, concernant cette même réunion,
Regarding the same meeting, this is what you stated, and I quote: "During the meeting, Tarit asked all the workers to carefully respect the discipline instituted by Angkar and monitor the activities of the enemy." And in another answer you said, Tarit said there were spies and arrests had to continue. End of quote. So you stated that Van Rith talked about enemies. Do you confirm that he stated that they had to be monitored, arrested, or eliminated?
Well, of course, he did make mention of that, but I could not recall every detail back then. I only recall some of the important events relating to that situation.
Merci. Est-ce que vous vous souvenez si
Thank you. Do you know whether Tarit, when he talked about those enemies, made reference to the policy of the party or to the orders issued by the upper echelons of the party?
That's what he raised at the time, that the activities of the enemy, particularly the borrowing from within enemy, must be monitored, and we had to take a concrete measure to monitor their activity.
à part l'épisode où vous avez
Apart from the episode in which you saw that Chia, that is the messenger of Niem, and you said that Niem himself had earlier been arrested, apart from that episode, did you see the trucks and the vehicles that transported Chi? Subsequently, did you see those vehicles return for other arrests?
Later on, after Chia were taken away in a truck, up until the Liberation Day, there were no more arrests. That's what I saw. There was no more arrest up until the Liberation Day.
et avant que Chi
And before Chi was arrested, did people disappear in your unit at Tultumpung?
The President, witness, please hold on. Make sure that you see the microphone is activated before you speak. Witness, my apology, Mr. President. Following the arrest of Gia, for some time later, there was some problem that actually happened to me, but I think that God had spared me. I was lucky enough. On the 6th of January, my wound got worse, so I could not go anywhere. And at Ministry of Commerce, only Sun Ray and me were there, so I had to stay back at the ministry. And at night, I miss others. I wanted to go and visit others, and accidentally on that night they told me about the plan against me. I was very terrified at that time. They accused me of being enemy too, and they told me that they did not know how to help me, but he gave me an idea. If we wanted to escape, we could not go anywhere in that era. So he advised me to follow him. So we discussed among two of us at night that we had to go and see the head of the office, and we had to tell him frankly. That was the only choice that I could make, and probably he could lend some mercy on us. Though I had no choice, I had to do as what he suggested. So I went out alone at around 7 or 8 at night. I cannot recall, but it was sometime in the evening. But the head of the office was not in bed yet, and at night I saw the light on the street, but at that time it was rather quiet along the street. I wanted to meet with the head of the office by the name of Ta. I knocked on her door and got in, and I expressed my apology to her. She asked me that was it me who went to the stay in the hospital. She invited me in, and then she talked to me. She asked me where I was going and whether I had anything to talk to her. I told her in fear, but I was trying to be as frank as possible. I told her that the purpose of the report which implicates me, that I had some treatment against the workers and laborers in my capacity as the team leader. At that time, Ta, who was the head of the office, was younger than me, but I had to address her by Bong. I told her that she advised me that I had to respect the discipline of the party. I had to comply with the order of the party, and I told her that I had complied fully with the party's direction. I dare not deviate from the party's instruction. Then the next day, I noticed that my superior, someone who was in the authority above me, were arrested. That lady was originally from the southwest zone, and she was someone who was more senior than me in terms of position. She was arrested. So I thought that it was my luck, it was my pure luck at that time that I was not arrested. Otherwise, I would have been arrested. And then afterward, Red convened a meeting. Actually, a meeting was held in the pagoda. He asked us to look up and saw the paintings in the pagoda. There were paintings of Buddhas and Buddhist monks. And he told us that there was no use of having all of this. And then a few days later, they used the landmine and they detonated this building so that the bricks could be used elsewhere rather than having the temple over there. So at that time, that was the order by Rit, and nobody would protest his instruction at that time.
Merci, Monsieur le témoin.
Thank you, witness. For the rest of the time we have, may I request that you be as concise as possible in your answers so that I could ask questions on more subjects. To sum up what you've said regarding this episode, if I understood you correctly, you normally would have been arrested. Sunray warned you, and you went to speak to your superior, Mrs. Tarr, to justify what you had done, and you were saved as a result. You told us that you were subsequently arrested following your conversation with Tarr. So after Chi's arrest, there was at least one other arrest or more arrests, including the one you've just referred to. Isn't that the case?
Well, after discussing this for some time, I come to recollect the event. Of course, there were arrests. I know that I cannot recall every detail of the event. It may pops up in my mind after talking about this thing. Sometime after that, there were orders of arrest. They arrest the networks. Later on, they use the big truck and buses, and they arrested in large group, including their family members as well, and they took them away. I heard the weeping and crying of those people who were taken away. So they took away both husband and wife and family members. That is what I witnessed at the time.
Merci. Alors,
Thank you. Regarding the vehicles you saw, the vehicles that came to arrest Chi, or the vehicle in which Chi and perhaps other persons were put, did you observe that it had a number plate and any other distinctive signs? If yes, what were they?
I did not see any number plate on that car. But in fact, it was not a car, it was a bus, as more people could be put onto that bus. Nobody dared to protest. So we only kept working and pretended not to see anything.
merci. Je reviens.
Thank you. I will now go into another line of questioning, and I would like to read an extract of the record of your interview dated 29th of October 2008. So it is still E3/363, and it has to do with Kyo Sampan. So it is on page 6 in French, page 5 in English, and on page 00236035 in Khmer. I hope the duty counsel would help you to find the passage. This is what you said in answer to a question. Thank you, Mr. President. I object to this question because I observe that when we are talking about my client, the prosecutor no longer asks questions but refreshes the witness's memory. That is not normal. Why don't you do what you've done before? Put questions to the witness and then try to refresh the witness's memory if he cannot remember something. Counsel for the prosecution. I am running out of time, Mr. President. I am adopting this approach to try to gain time. I could ask an open question, but I am also allowed to read a passage and then add further questions. I think this method has been used before this chamber, and I should be allowed to proceed in this manner. Thank you.
President, the objection by the International Council for Khieu Samphan to the last question by the prosecutor is not appropriate, and the question can be put in reference to the existing documents, and for that reason the prosecutor can continue with the question for this witness.
Thank you. I'll read out the excerpt, Mr. Witness. You said this. Later, in 1978, during the time I was working in Tuol Tumpong Pagoda, I saw Khieu Samphan, who was accompanied by Rit, coming to check on domestic products such as soybean and green beans, while workers were packing and weighing them for export. End of quote. Can you please confirm to us that you saw Mr. Khieu Samphan in Tuol Tumpong coming to visit these premises just once or several times?
At that time, I saw him come to inspect the products, but he did not stop and talk to us. He went along the road accompanied by a red, and then he gave instruction that we should be careful and attentive to the work because the product is for export, and that's all I heard, and later on he left.
What you saw on that visit and what you heard within the Ministry of Commerce, in your opinion, who out of Khieu Samphan or Rit had a higher position in the hierarchy of the party?
I could not know. But you can do the comparison yourself. One was in charge of the ministry, one was the head of state or deputy head of state. Because from what I could see, one read while he was walking, he kept his head down.
Très bien, je voudrais aussi...
Very good. Mr. President, staying on the subject of the leaders of Democratic Cambodia, I'd like to read a passage from the interview given to the DCCAM, which has the reference IS 19.177. In English, it's on page 10. In other words, 00679694, and in Khmer 00055227. There isn't a French translation at the moment. It's just a brief passage, and I'd like to ask the witness for his reaction after that. And it begins, or perhaps I should say first, Mr. President, that I am going to read this passage in English because there isn't a French translation.
President, yes, you may proceed. So, interpreter, please switch your channel accordingly. President, Council for Khieu Samphan, you may proceed.
Thank you. Excuse me, I wasn't able to note the page numbers. It went rather fast for me. The prosecutor, yes, sure, in English it's page 10, in Khmer 00055227.
Did you know who was? Answer from Tat. Pol Pot, Khieu Samphan, Ieng Sary, and Yun Shia were all top leaders. I didn't know who brother number 2 was among them. I only knew that Pol Pot was called brother number 1. And then a little bit under. Yes, there were other leaders in their respective ministries. Apart from Pol Pot being the Prime Minister, I heard Son Sen was in charge of the Ministry of National Defense. Ieng Sary was in charge of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Nun Chia was in charge of the People's Assembly. End of quote. Donc voilà, ça c'est un extrait.
So that's the extract from your interview with those people in 2003, Mr. Witness. Since you say that Pol Pot, Khieu Samphan, Ieng Sary and Nun Chia were senior leaders, could you tell us when you learnt that those people were senior leaders in democratic Cambodia?
I cannot recall when I learned about that. We did not dare ask who were who, but we heard from other peoples. The senior leaders were those as you just mentioned, and they were in charge of their respective ministry.
Thank you. Mr. President, I see that time is passing. I have about 10 more minutes worth of questions. I don't know if you want to announce a break now. I'm in your hands.
President, the time is appropriate for a short break. We will break now and return at 3 p.m. Court officer, could you assist the witness during the break and have him return to the courtroom at 3 p.m. Likewise, for the Duty Council, the court is now in recess.